a little bit of our background last year. We were highly successful, but as we said, it was many years getting this project lined up and doing the initial discovery work as well.
For sure. I imagine a lot of your shareholders are extremely happy, but where can that go? You've gone from 50 cents to $4 in short order.
Yeah.
Off the back of some great holes.
Yeah.
Where's that leave people wanting to come in now or thinking about coming in now?
Well, it's an interesting question. Now, what we've done very differently from most other Canadian or most other mining companies is we've kept a very tight share structure. So we've only got about 38 million shares out. So we look at right now.
But fully diluted?
About 48.
Yeah.
Fully diluted. Yeah. That includes all the warrants and all the options that are in the company. So it's a fraction of what there is in some companies with comparable assets.
For sure.
Yeah. So what I'd say is that once we get the value of our project reflected in the stock, and it's my opinion, and remember, I'm a biased source of information, right? So, but it's my opinion that if the potential of the project were fully reflected in the share price, there'd be multiples to go from here. So it's a function of that tightness of share structure that we see these high valuations in the stock.
You've got plans obviously for this year. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what's coming up, what you're targeting, what do you think that will do for shareholders?
The basic philosophy for Great Bear is to bring us down the valuation path that some of the other discoveries in the Red Lake District have generated. So some recent examples of real genuine new discoveries. There was the high-grade zone at the main Red Lake gold mine that was discovered under the stewardship of our biggest shareholder, Rob McEwen. That ended up being a multi-billion-dollar asset. It turned Goldcorp from a company about our size to a $37 billion major mining producer. And that was similar grades, similar widths, similar style of mineralization to what we've found. The difference is that was 2 kilometers at depth in the earth. Ours is on surface, right? So that's an example of where I think Great Bear needs to go and what we're aiming to do. There's other examples of pre-resource sales in the Red Lake District. These are typically high-value acquisitions. For example, about 10 years ago, another large shareholder of ours, Rob Cudney, put the company Gold Eagle together, and he sold that to Goldcorp for about $1.5 billion before they even had a resource put together. And that was at 800 meters to about 2 kilometers of depth. So again, we've got superior grades, superior widths, and it looks like a bigger footprint of a gold system than that, but ours is again going right to surface. So these are some very high value precedents that we have in the Red Lake District, and this is the goal for Great Bear, is to materialize that value for our shareholders on a very tight share structure. For instance, just to run a little bit of metrics on that, if we had a fraction of the Gold Eagle valuation, if say we got to a $500 million valuation, that would be over $10 a share Canadian.
Okay, so there's some uplift left.
We would hope. That's the goal. You
would hope. So you've painted a picture there, and you've made some parallels with some pretty big companies and some huge successes. Why don't you paint a picture of what's going on underground? You kind of got a sense of what's going on there. I know you've got a big drill program lined up for this year, 150 holes, 30,000 meters. So
it's double that now.
It's double that now. Fantastic.
Yeah, we just issued news on Monday that we're expanding to 60,000 meters and bringing in another drill rig. So
you got the cash for that?
Oh yeah, we've got the cash for that. Plus, by the time we finish that, we should have roughly about $10 million left over.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay, so tell us what you're trying to get to there with that extra, drilling.
Well, the idea is to try to show the scope of the system. And so far, we've got gold drilled over about 2.5 kilometers of strike length, but only down to about 300 to 400 meters. These deposits in Red Lake, they often go to kilometers of depth, right? So one of the things that we have to do is be able to follow the gold zones that we already know about down to depth and build them out along strike as well. But then we also have to test other targets on the property. There's a very big gold sourcing fault that we've seen on seismic data that the government has mapped out using that data and that we've drilled into. It's about 20 kilometers long in our project. That's why we staked the property the way that we did. And the secondary structures off of that all look like very prospective gold hosts. So there's the area that we know about now, which needs to be aggressively drilled, but there's also other targets that we need to test to show the overall scope of the system.
Those targets have been already identified. It's just a question of understanding them better.
Yeah, and putting more holes into them to expand them. Yes, correct.
Okay. That's so. The plan for this year. Where does that get you to at the end of this year? What do you end up with?
At the end of this year, we would have hundreds of drill holes.
Yeah.
We'll have defined a mineralized volume,
Yeah.
and that would be over the Dixie Limb Zone, which was the original discovery, and the Hinge Zone, which is our new discovery. And that'll give us an idea going into next year, the overall sort of size of the system.
Right.
And that'll let us start building the initial parts of a resource for the project, right?
But not a resource. So what's the thinking there?
What we'd like to do is, with that initial resource publication, I'd like that to be, if the system is as big as what it looks like it could be, we'd like to have enough drilling done to reflect that. And that just takes time. So we've made the initial discoveries. We've had the first beginnings of value accretion in the company. If we keep hitting gold the way that we've been doing, by the time we get to the end of the year, it should be obvious to the market at large that we're dealing with a major gold system. By the time, if that's the case, well, obviously the drill has to prove that, but if that's the case, we want to be able to show that that's a regionally significant gold system. And one of the characteristics of Red Lake, which is it's the maturity of the camp. So right now you're looking at Goldcorp mining at 2.5 kilometers vertical depth and effectively, to some extent, running out of high-grade gold. We've developed a discovery which is very similar to what they're mining right now, right off the side of the road, and it's the same kind of material that they've got.
Right.
So potentially, we've identified a very attractive source of high-grade gold. Right?
Okay, so would you say this is sort of unconventional? Most people rush to put out a resource because that's what typically the market looks for. We need to know what they've got, You're saying, actually, hold off, guys. Our strategy is going to be different from that. We're going to work out the extent of this thing, and when we put out a resource, it's going to be big. And that'll give you an indication of what's to come.
Correct. That's exactly the idea. I think a lot of junior companies fall into a trap where, in order to raise the money to do the next round of drilling, they have to publish a resource before they should do so necessarily. And if you were sitting, like hypothetically, if you've discovered a 5 million ounce gold deposit, but you need to put out a resource that's maybe 10% of the total size, 500,000 ounces, I think that's a recipe for shareholder value erosion, and a pretty bad erosion of value. Whereas if you can show the potential scope of that system and the accurate size of it, or a potential for that size early on, you're going to make your shareholders a lot more money.
Right, and so what's given you the luxury of time? You've got cash.
Yeah.
That's good. Is that a factor of who's involved with Rob McEwen, obviously, and others, and being part of the discovery group? Was that sort of a moment for you when you decided to come into the discovery group that you think has borne fruit, or do you think it was a factor of actually the drill holes do the speaking for me? Well,
I had met Rob McEwen through other contexts, a couple of years back, and he's a very well-known guy in the industry. So when we made the initial discovery, we put out the news one morning. It was a Tuesday morning, I believe. We were on the phone with Rob an hour after the news was out, and by the time the phone call was over, there was a $6 million order into Great Bear from Mr. McEwen. Right. And the reason being that the last time that a discovery like this was made, it generated Goldcorp, right, as an end product, a multi-billion-dollar asset. So he said to us, I've seen this story play out before, and I know where it could go, right? So, and most of that money is his personal money. Now, management, like myself, John Robbins, the other guys, Jim Paterson, the other guys in the board, we put in $1.5 million again beside Rob, right? So
day one, and are you still continuing to buy?
We always buy in it.
Right.
We buy in the placements, we buy in the market. We have to accumulate our position along with other shareholders because Great Bear, it's a mining deal where the founders did not have penny stock. Right, so a lot of these companies are put together by the time the public gets to buy their first share, the management team has already made 10 times the value. Right,
sure.
This is the structural.
That's the game.
In our case, I was involved with Great Bear a long time ago. I was buying stock at $1 prior to a 1 for 25 rollback where we consolidated the structure. So my average cost on the stock was many, many dollars. So for me to make money on this, I've bought as much as I can at every stage of the way through every private placement, and I'll continue to buy as much as I can in the market whenever I'm able to do so. And that's how we accumulate a position. We have to win along with our shareholders.
That's always attractive. Okay, so we've got a great board, some great advisors, some great shareholders. You've got a world-class asset, high grades, and you're trying to build it out to give it scale as well. Yeah. Is promotion a big part of this? Because I know you've got a big retail following in Canada. You're also trotting around the world. I mean, Are you seeing retail as a means of driving the liquidity and volume of trading?
It's quite interesting. We did almost no promotion in this company until very recently.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is more like awareness in our sense, because we believe in the project, we believe in the opportunity, and we think what the market's not used to seeing is real new discoveries. There just aren't that many new ones found.
There's a lot of white noise out there, but yours does stand out for lots of good reasons. So how's that going down with the? Well, let's start with the institutional guys. I mean, what's the feedback?
It's been very positive on these trips. So if you plot up our grades and widths and our depths and all these other factors, the political jurisdiction, it stacks up very favorably compared to a lot of other deals. I mean, there are good gold projects that are in unsafe jurisdictions where there's a lot of political and financing risk involved in those. Maybe you can develop a mine and then have it expropriated from you by the government or something. We're in a safe jurisdiction. So it's been received very well, actually, to this point.